what do people need to do before they say I do? So as you know, on the traditional events directory, we have the different categories. And
So from a financial perspective, I do know that step kids can claim from retirement funds, but legally, financially, legally, your beneficiaries will be the ones that claim from your life cover, investments, any other financial planning that you had planned.
Yes, because in community, it's all debts incurred before the marriage and during the marriage. So the creditors can come after him, even if you got that property before you were married.
so within community of property, you actually take in debt before as well.
Before
Yes.
as well.
There's no quicker. So if I get married today and I say I do, and then tomorrow I'm like, yo, actually I don't. Right? Is it too late? Do I now need to go to high court, or not court, but do I now need to follow the proper?
Yes, the only way to end a marriage, regardless if it's customary, civil, is through divorce. So you have to go through the court.
And once you've gone through the traditional things by mistake and you didn't sign the prenup.
Yeah.
Now, again, you didn't know that you should have signed the prenup before they got right? And now they've got that.
Yeah,
and
everything is done.
How can that be fixed? Can that be fixed? And how is it fixed? And plus minus, how much does a couple need to look at in actually fixing that?
Another trend I've noticed is people getting into debt, guys taking loans for a wedding. Why? I'm so sorry.
I've seen taking loans for a wedding, but I've seen ladies taking loans to help pay their own lobola.
Yes, it happens.
That and then the gentleman then disappears with the money and then goes either lobola somebody else or just disappears with the money altogether. Action. Thank you. Okay, so ladies, welcome to the Eventful by Her podcast. This is our very first episode. We're actually quite excited. And this is pretty much a home for conversations around what happens on the back end on the eventing space, right? But also just delving into the businesses that support the eventing space. So we'll be looking at stories behind the catering businesses, stories behind the legal professions, stories behind the financial professions, and how your advice can help somebody who is planning an event. And based on our topic for today, we'll be saying I do, right? Okay. So to start off with, if I could have you introduce yourselves.
Okay.
You can go for it.
Okay, I am Rebecca Bosocha. I am a Liberty Standard Bank financial planner. I do work for a brokerage, EQFin. We're based in Bryanston. I help with the A to Z of all things financial planning. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Lovely to have you.
Okay,
And you, Buhle?
I am Buhle Mudimokhale, an admitted attorney of the High Court of South Africa and an attorney and director at BK Mudimokhale Attorneys Incorporated. We are a law firm which provides legal services across various aspects of law.
Various aspects of law. Beautiful. So for the purpose of this episode, we are going to discuss what do people need to do before they say I do. So as you know, on the traditional events directory, we have the different categories. And you lovely ladies are part of the counseling and support section on the traditional events directory. And that's where people who are about to say I do can come in, list their event, and they can have professionals like you reach out to them and say, do you have your things in place? And those are the kind of things that we're going to discuss at length this afternoon, right?
But keep it short.
Because if you look at it traditionally, what normally happens is ahead of marriages, the church always pushes for premarital counseling, but very rarely do they actually have premarital financial counseling done, and perhaps going or delving deeper into what is needed from a legal side of things, right? So to start off with, from a legal side of things, what would you say is the number one thing that a couple needs to do before they say I do?
Number one, understand the different marital regimes and their consequences, because people get married but they don't know what happens if we get divorced or if we die. People are uninformed or not informed, or actually people are ill-informed and not informed about the consequences beyond the actual wedding day.
So when you say wedding regimes, what exactly do you mean by wedding regimes?
So in South Africa, we have 3 marital regimes, which is in community of property, out of community of property, with the accrual system, or without the accrual system. So in terms of in community of property, which is the most popular marital regime, because it's the default system, you go 50-50. It's what people know as 50-50. So all the assets and liabilities that were incurred before the marriage and during the marriage form part of the joint estate. And then we have out of community of property without accrual. This is where each spouse's assets and liabilities remain separate during marriage, during divorce, or upon death. And then we have out of community of property with the accrual system. In this one, the assets and liabilities still remain separate. However, when the spouses divorce or they separate through death or divorce, then they share with the growth. So if I can make a practical example, let's say the husband came in with 1 million rand and the wife came in with 500,000 rand. At the end of the marriage, the husband now has 1.2 million rand and the wife then still has 500,000 rand. Then there's a difference that is calculated between the two, divide that by 2, and then the wife claims that percentage.
Or the husband claims that percentage.
Or the husband, whoever has the higher estate.
Will claim that percentage.
The one who has the lower estate will claim from the spouse with the higher estate.
Okay. And what would you say from a financial perspective would be your top thing that couples need to do before they say I do?
Couples need to sit down with a financial advisor and a legal advisor, primarily because of those reasons, and also because I do is one day, marriage is forever, right? We use our finances day in and day out. If you're going to go all out on one day, then your marriage will not be the marriage you're hoping for. It's going to be a financially challenging one. So I say that sit down with a financial planner, sit down with a legal advisor, decide, are we going all in? Is it half? Is it, okay, keep yours, I'll keep mine? Or is it, we've met now, let's grow our wealth together, let's grow our marriage together? Yes, so basically just have those conversations. You know, we come into marriages with a lot of different things. You live by yourself, I live by myself. We budgeted differently. We spend money differently. Our relationship with money is different. Just having the conversation is the first thing to do.
And from a financial planner perspective, do you also touch on the regimes when these couples meet with you? Is that something that you have the scope to touch on, or is it something specifically that they would need a legal advisor for?
We do help with estate planning, and we do help with, we do advise. We don't, obviously can't say, no, do this, do that, because love is love, right? We're saying I do because we're in love. But we do advise on, if you go this route, this is the regime, that this is what will take place during your marriage. This is the debt. We explain everything. Yes. So we just touch on, it's just more of an explanation and calculation. But yeah.
On everything. And what would be the one policy or one solution, financial solution, that you would say every couple needs to have in place?
Oh, this is a tough question. I'd say, you're giving me, I don't know, it's so many. But budgeting, guys.
Budgeting.
You know what? I feel like I always give myself a hard time for saying people should budget. But we coming into a marriage, we want to say I do. You spend money recklessly, or you're an impulsive spender. I'm more responsible. I don't go shopping as much as you do. You know, even if I earn more than you, it's combining that relationship with money and making sure that it's ready for I do. Because if it's not ready for I do, that's the first big challenge in the marriage before I do.
is budgeting.
And after, it's
and
budgeting.
getting on the same place.
Getting on the same page.
So, Buhle, you deal with divorces. And what would you say is the number one reason why people get divorced?
Okay, there's not one reason, but there's many reasons.
Okay, the most common?
The most common irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. People just don't see eye to eye with different aspects. It could be finances. It could be with regards to children, different career paths. So people just don't see eye to eye anymore.
Okay.
And they're unable to reconcile those differences.
So for me, I think we're entering an era where a lot of our families are blended, right?
Yes.
You are getting into a second marriage, or you're getting married with kids that existed outside of the union before. So my question then comes, and this goes to both of you. When you are a blended family and you're starting the journey of coming together, what would you suggest from a legal side of things would need to be considered? And this is on the back of, there was a ruling, I think just 2 weeks back, Cape Town High Court, where father married, then stepkids showed them a certain lifestyle, and the court actually ordered, even with a prenup, that he actually needs to sustain his ex-stepkids because he's shown them a certain lifestyle and he needs to maintain that. And when somebody went in and they think they've got a prenup, they think, I'm safe.
Yeah.
I'm good to go, right? Then there's stuff like your schooling of the kids. What happens to all of that? Your financial planning in regards to the policies that you have in place for these kids. So starting off, what do you think as a blended family coming in, what conversations need to be had from a legal side and what conversations need to be had from a financial side?
Okay, like you said, with the High Court decision, it just shows that the court has an overriding power over a prenup or a post-nuptial contract. So even if you do sign those things, they can't override the law. So it's important to determine what happens to the assets and liabilities. Do you have a will in place? Because if you don't have a will in place, the law will decide for you, like we see in the High Court decision. So just know what happens to stepkids, to biological children, blood children. It's important to look into those stuff when you are a blended family as to what happens when the breadwinner dies and is no longer there in terms of the children and the wife.
So what happens in regards to stepkids?
So
what rights do stepkids actually have? Because I don't think that's something that's pretty much delved into quite a bit.
So without a will, look, with law, it's so important not to take a blanket approach because the court will always look at the facts for each specific case.
Cool.
Okay. The court will always look at the facts for each specific case. So there is no blanket approach. But let's take an example where a person dies without a will. Then the Interstate Succession Act then comes into play to say, okay, if it's blood children, then those are the ones that inherit. If there's no blood children, then probably the last step would be then that the stepchildren inherit. So ultimately, the law decides what happens. If there is no will, the law will decide for you.
Okay. And from a financial perspective?
So from a financial perspective, I do know that stepkids can claim from retirement funds, but legally, financially, legally, your beneficiaries will be the ones that claim from your life cover, investments, any other financial planning that you had planned. And then I do also know that from a stepkid's perspective, it's very sad. It's very sad because, firstly, the kids still have their own blood parents, probably still alive. If they're not alive, whether they're financially present, not financially present, like the ruling stated, this man had already been financially supporting the stepchildren. So legally, they are entitled for him to take care of them. If the father or the mother was not financially taking care of them for whatever reason, this man is the man that's been legally, and especially when there's proof. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be proof or people should start doing funny things, but if a woman can go to court and prove that this is X amount, this is how much I'm getting from him every month, this is how much he spends on groceries, we all live here, this is how much he pays for school fees, they have a claim to any financial resources that he can provide.
So when somebody passes away and there's the family and they've got their beneficiaries, right? And they have hopefully a will in place.
Hopefully,
Hopefully a will in place. How long does a potential beneficiary have, or somebody who feels that they have claim to the estate, to put their hand up? Is there a window period, or how does it work?
So generally, I always tell my clients to communicate with their families what they do have in place, and I won't say tell who's going to get what's going to get, but the documents generally should say your spouse generally does know what you do have. If you are on a beneficiary list, your children will be there, but if you don't have a will and there is not an adult to claim your benefit, your however many financial resources are going to be released from the insurer, that money will not get to the family. It's actually going to the government fund.
I think it's called the Guardians Fund.
Government Guardians Fund, yes. So then your children then has to go to the government to actually claim for your life cover.
If no will is in place.
If no will is in place and there's minors as your beneficiaries.
Yeah.
I love South Africa. I love my government. I love Cyril, but yeah, no.
They take
your
enough
children
of the
have
taxes.
to.
Imagine now they're taking your entire estate.
Your entire estate. Good luck. Your children have to go and go claim from the government fund. I've read, and it states that they invest the money, they do what they do with the money, but I've heard stories where it takes forever, years, for them to release those finances. So it's quite pointless to actually have financial planning in order and not have a will. Yeah.
So a will is right up there, right at the top.
A will should go hand in hand with all types of financial planning. If you have an investment, if you have life cover, if you have retirement planning, if you know that at work you're going to get benefits from wherever, you should have a will in place. The next step would be creating a trust, right? Instructing that your will create a trust so that instead of those funds going elsewhere, the funds go into a managed trust where your children will be able to receive their money guaranteed every month.
And responsibly so,
And
right?
responsibly so. So you can stipulate in your will, I want my child to only receive R1 million when he turns 27, he has a degree, or he's coming to take a loan for a business. But if you don't state anything and you're just saying I'm paying, or I've got group cover and I don't have a will, then we really hope that there is an adult who you can trust, and that adult is someone who is responsible with finances.
Shoo. And at what point would you say is the best time from a regime perspective, the three regimes, when is the best time to have that conversation and to have that locked down in the process of getting married? Because, you know, we've got a lot of cultural things that happen before you say I do, right?
Yeah.
So when is the best time to have that conversation on which direction you're going?
In terms of customary law, way before the uncles arrive at your gate, you should have already had that conversation. Before they knock, have that conversation. And I'll tell you, because the uncles arrive at your gate, you've paid Lobola, you celebrated the marriage in accordance with customary law. If you meet all those requirements, you're now married customarily in community of property. By then, it's too late to determine certain things without you first signing that prenuptial contract, or antenuptial contract, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing, just interchangeable terms. And then in terms of civilly, obviously before you say I do, those conversations should have been long had.
So, Buhle, may you please educate me? Apparently, as soon as you send that letter, it's considered you being married.
Sending the letter.
Sending the letter,
Hawaso
telling them
kokote.
hawaso kokote, hawaso patali.
Okay, no, where we at, please.
Okay, so again, people take a blanket approach when it comes to law, and it's not like that because customs is so fluid. There's so many customs in South Africa. We could both be Zulu, but we do things differently in our families. And that is not the requirement of Section 3 of the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. It doesn't say when the Lobola letter comes, then you're now married customarily. There are 3 requirements, which is you must be 18 years and older, you must consent to the marriage, and it must be entered into, negotiated, or celebrated in accordance with customary law. So only once those 3 requirements are met, then do you have a customary marriage. At the point where you send the Lobola letter, I think that is a big misconception.
Thank you.
So with a Lobola letter, you're still safe.
You're still safe.
You're still safe.
Because you haven't performed any customs. You haven't negotiated the Lobola.
Nothing has been agreed
Nothing
upon.
has been agreed upon.
Nothing has been celebrated.
Yes, nothing is being celebrated. You haven't had Lobola luncheon or whatever people do these days. So
Okay, that's good to know. I was now everybody was now holding on to their letters going, we're not posting them until we have a prenup.
it's not true.
I think from a financial perspective, the minute you start dating someone, I don't know that people have that 90-day rule. Within the 90 days, I think that you need to sit down, especially if you're working, you're over 18, you have your own responsibilities, you're paying black tax somewhere, right? And you know, we date with a purpose. Well, hopefully, I hope that we're dating with a purpose. But the minute you enter into a relationship, it should be a let's sit down, right? We're together. Let's look at our finances. This is what I have in place. This is where I'm investing my money. I'm ready for retirement, or I'm 10% ready for retirement. I have a child elsewhere. I'm taking care of this child. I'm sending 5,000 Rand a month, right? That way you already know it's an expectation that, okay, my finances before we even get to the point of we're on the same page. I also have a life cover policy. I also have a retirement annuity. I'm also contributing towards an investment. If I am paying black tax, this is how much I support my family with, so that when we say I do, you're not like, oh, okay, but this is how much I'm sending, because at that point, my finances are your finances, or however we decide to go about it. So the minute before we start dating, let's talk about it.
90-day rule. So within the first 90 days, while you're still deciding whether you're going to go all the way or not, have the finance talk, right? And from a legal perspective, so we've got what do they call this thing? We've got the family, we've got the prenups, and we've sorted out the whole Lobola discussion and when to go into.
Okay.
What would you say is the biggest mess you've ever seen legally that could have been prevented before the couple said, I do?
Mess. Okay, there's now a trend where people send Lobola letters, they then do the customs, they celebrate it, and then when it's now time to officiate things, either moving together, the guy then says, no, we're not married. And then they want to go through a divorce proceeding, or actually they want to dispute everything because they're actually not married. So people perform all these customs only then to come and say that they're actually not married. So what was the point of doing all of that if you actually had no intention to get married? So that's what we're seeing a lot. People, I think, they're trying to absolve the consequences of in-community of property. This is why they actually do that.
And once you've gone through the traditional things by mistake and you didn't sign the prenup.
Yeah.
Now, I get it, you didn't know that you should have signed the prenup before they got right? And now they've got that.
Yeah,
and
everything is done.
How can that be fixed? Can that be fixed? And how is it fixed? And plus minus, how much does a couple need to look at in actually fixing that?
You can fix it, but it's not a simple process. You have to apply to the High Court, because now you're married in community of property. You can now change to out of community of property by applying to the High Court and then registering a post-nuptial contract. So the court accepts various reasons as to why you want to change your regime. It could be because you have different career path now. You started a business and you want to protect certain assets. So there's that. And then you can also apply to the High Court to condone the late registration of an antenuptial contract. I wouldn't advise that because I don't think it's an order that would be easily granted, because why didn't you actually register the contract before you got married? So you can sign a postnuptial contract. You can try and also apply for the late filing or late registration of the prenuptial contract or antenuptial contract. It's the same thing. It's just people use different terms.
And can somebody do this themselves, or do they actually need a lawyer, like legal counsel, to facilitate this process? And going into the High Court always sounds so expensive and big and serious. So plus minus, what are the costs that somebody is looking at if they have said, "Kora to I do," and they want to go back and fix things?
The cost, it's different. It's difficult to give an exact cost because there's different things that go into the application, such as the drafting fees of the attorney, the different hourly rates, appointing counsel. But I think people are scared of lawyers and they think they're so expensive and inaccessible. But that's not the case. There's people who provide affordable legal services. So it will be difficult to give a rough estimate of how much, but people shouldn't be scared.
To reach out and get assistance and fix things, right?
And fix things. You can fix things. You really can.
So I always say the longer you stay on a bus or a train that's going in the wrong direction, the more expensive it is to get off.
Yes.
At a later stage. So when things are still peachy in your relationship and they're fresh, go fix things earlier on than later when you don't agree and there's now a party who's trying to take advantage and benefit of the oversight that was done at the beginning.
Yes. Like the whole, that big couple saga.
Yes.
I will not name them, but yeah. Another trend I've noticed is people getting into debt, guys taking loans for a wedding. Why? I'm so sorry.
I've seen taking loans for a wedding, but I've seen ladies taking loans to help pay their own lobola.
Yes, it happens.
And then the gentleman then disappears with the money and then goes either lobola somebody else or just disappears with the money altogether.
It's not funny, but are you being serious? Okay, I've heard these stories, but I haven't experienced them like personally. But I do know that people do take out credit cards. You're using your first ever credit card to pay for your wedding. That doesn't make sense. We're supposed to be budgeting for a wedding. If we can't afford one, if we're planning a life together and we're planning to stay together forever, why are we taking out a loan? Why can't we just let time happen, let what we're saving compound, and then when we're ready, have a wedding we can actually afford?
Yeah.
And when we're discussing these regimes and these loans, right? Because some of these loans are taken out before the guys actually walk down the aisle and say, I do. But the cocoting has already happened, right? Do these loans then fall under in community of property then in that case from a legal perspective?
Yes, because in community is everything before and during the marriage. So if you took out a bond, let's say for 10 million rand, you'll be responsible for that during the marriage, upon divorce, upon death. So that is in community of property.
Yes.
Shocked and disturbed.
And, Ushle, you've been saying upon death, people don't realize that even at death, we pay tax, right? It costs to die, especially in a marriage, and especially if you have a lot of debt and you haven't financially planned for that debt. People will think that, everything is ready. This is a sad case. I had a client, a Muslim couple, come in. The wife asked for financial planning assistance, and the husband was divorcing her. Same community of property. He unfortunately left her for another woman, a younger woman. And upon divorce, she realizes that she has a 4 million rand debt because his company took on debt. And, people are very unaware, but because of our different cultures, not each and every single marriage is the same, right? In Muslim cultures, sometimes women aren't even given the opportunity to have a look at the finances, to have a say in the finances generally. Yeah, so
So calling on to that, so when you sign a contract, right, and I've seen when you actually ask for financial assistance from a bank, whether it is to buy a car or anything, they actually ask your marital status.
Yes.
And you tick there whether you're married. They even say in community of property, what kind of marriage are you in? So in the case that this business took out debt and this wife's signature is not, because if you're married in community of property, both spouses should be signing on the documents.
Yes.
Can it legally stand in court if the other spouse did not consent with a signature?
I don't think it can, and it happens a lot of the times where people are supposed to co-sign, but they actually don't, be it buying cars, buying houses. We're not sure why it happens, but people actually sign without the consent of the other spouse, which is required when you're married in community of property. So I think it's something that does have legal standing in High Court. But there are some agreements which you can ratify, which means you can fix it at a later stage. But there's some agreements which you can't ratify, which means that agreement will then be invalid because you don't have the consent of your spouse.
So if I, for example, purchase a house, right, and I'm in my Lobola stages, right?
Okay.
They've got that, right? And I go sign on a 4 million rand bond, right? And I sign a loan because as far as I'm concerned, I haven't yet said alili, so I don't consider myself as married.
Yes.
This debt, does it then get pushed onto my partner at some point? Can the bank actually hold him liable for it? Even though I stated that I was not yet married and he hadn't signed for it.
Yes, because in community, it's all debts incurred before the marriage and during the marriage. So the creditors can come after him, even if you got that property before you were married.
So within community of property, you actually take in debt before as well?
Before as well.
As long as they can prove that we got that, the alilid, yes. Haven't you noticed, they generally ask, especially for our creditors, do you have a spouse or are you married? When you're married and you have a spouse that earns more than you, you're more likely to actually get a loan offered to you. Did you pick that up? Yeah. Because then it means that there's someone else who can assist you to pay that off.
And somebody else that they can get surety for and go after legally after the point. But the question of that signature not being there or being there on, how can somebody go into court and win against that? Because there are some people who do things behind other people's back just to go, in revenge, I am going to do the following and mess up your life. Right? And what can they do to protect themselves legally from somebody doing that to them?
Yeah, you can. The agreement then will be invalid because it doesn't meet the requirements of a valid agreement because you signed it without the consent of the other spouse. So that in itself can render it invalid. So it's about applying to court. And again, it's not a blanket approach. The court looks at the facts of each case. So it's about stating your case, putting all those documents there, and the court will then make a decision.
Buhle, can I ask a question, right? So as much as it's not a blanket approach, you bought the house.
Okay.
Your partner is coming in and living in the house with you as a married couple in community of property. Where's the conversation being had where, okay, this house is your house or it's my house, or this is back to the first question we started with. The fact that that partner knows that we're living in this house together means that, and surely, right, we're a married couple. At some point, you're going to say, oh, I'm paying for this bond. It should, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, the law should ask, did it not come up to say who's paying? Where are the finances coming from? Why, right? So I think in as much as, yes, you say that, yes, it's not a blanket approach, but I think it does at the end of the day boil down to this person bought a 2 million rand Maserati. You were sitting in the car. You didn't ask questions. Why didn't you ask questions? You drove it to buy groceries. There's an Instagram post on you with you in front of the Maserati. You know you're married in community of property. What happens then?
It's because also people don't think that far. They don't think that divorce is going to happen. They don't think death will happen. So when they're driving these cars, when the loan is being taken out, they don't ask these questions. but the law is as it says it is. If you're in community of property, you will be liable for that debt for the house and for the car. Yeah.
So I think
I hope I answered your question.
we've asked about before we say I do, right? But we haven't discussed during the marriage, because I think it always needs to be a continuous subject that is constantly touched on in order to maintain and make sure that the relationships are healthy going forward. So how often would you say a couple would need to reevaluate their finances, reevaluate their wills, reevaluate whether their prenup still serves the union or not? How often would you say these things need to be reviewed?
I don't want to be dramatic, but I check on my clients every 3 months because life happens, right? You get a new job, you think of changing careers. These are things that affect your finances. I always tell people that from the moment you wake up, open your eyes and breathe, it's a cost, right? If you're thinking of having children, it's come back to me. If you just had a baby, you didn't tell me about it, we have to go revise your will. We have to increase your life cover. We have to increase your retirement. We have to add an investment or an education planning for this new child. Because if tomorrow something happens, I'm the one that's going to be asked, did you not call this client, or did this client not call you to tell you that this has happened? I generally tell people that financial planning it's a daily thing. From a personal perspective. With your financial planner, I'd say quarterly, just have that open relationship, have a close relationship, so that even if it comes up in passing that, oh yeah, no, my uncle is traveling from Kaika, he's going to be living with us. Let's look at your finances again. It's not a one-stop shop, it's a journey, just like the marriage. And if you're not going to be looking at things again, over and over again, it's going to be problematic and very challenging for a marriage.
Can I just ask, from a financial planning perspective, right? Perhaps if you've got some stats in regards to male versus females that come through to you, which one is more like who is more on their money in terms of males versus females?
Gosh, why are you asking me this? Okay, I'll be honest with you. Women are more financially responsible. Women are more open to having the conversation about finances. But this is just a personal perspective. It's not, if I just look at my own clients and I look at the relationship I have with my clients and just how the interactions become, men generally are more carefree. They're not every man, but men are more carefree, and it's very concerning, especially in South Africa, because, a lot has happened in this country. Our working class now is a lot of men and women, very successful women.
Correct.
And I believe that, unfortunately, we as I don't want to say black people. I don't like saying black people, but you want to know what? Oh, you want to know what? We live our lives financially to please people instead of just being batho ba tla reng. Ke fetsa ho thola mosebetsi, let me go buy myself this car. You don't know, this person is swimming in car debt. And it's like, why? Why are you doing that to yourself? So I always tell people that it's just my mandate to ensure that young working South Africans specifically, we have our financial planning in order, not aesthetically, but genuinely. And also we ensure that our children are not fighting the same battles that our great-grandparents and our parents fought. You can't be earning 30, 40,000 and you're telling me you can't prepare, financially plan for your child to go to school, financially plan for death. You can't afford to die and leave your family something when you know very well you did not receive an inheritance. So yeah, when you speak about it, it's not very pleasant all the time to both men and women, but women are more on their A game in terms of their finances. They're very strict and they're very, even a woman who splurges responsibly.
Within her limits.
Within her limits. Yeah, it's planned.
And from your side, from a prenup perspective, who pushes for it more, men or females?
I think it's definitely men.
It's always
It's
men.
Always men.
It's always
pushing for
men.
the antenuptial contract. Yeah.
So females have their finances sorted, but it's the men that are
Yes,
pushing for
are pushing
prenups.
for the prenups.
Okay. No, that's quite interesting. And then just looking at, which is what I love, and because we're touching on different aspects of this, that it's actually just not even before you say I do, right? Especially from a financial perspective. How soon would you say somebody actually needs to get a financial planner?
The minute you start working. I was going to say from birth, but the minute you start working. So the reason I'd say from birth is because there are some parents who have their children's financial planning already set, right? Which is exactly what should be happening. By the time the child turns 16, 18, they may already be ready to receive the inheritance. At that point, they already need a financial planner. If maybe the child is, God forbid, this is life, I have to get used to speaking about death. If your parents die before you turn 18 and you're 15, 14, you should have a financial planner. But if you are from maybe had a rough childhood and you're making your way into society, working, earning your own money, taking care of yourself financially, the minute you start working, it doesn't matter whether you're earning 3.5, 2.5, 10, 12, 30, 40, 120,000. The minute you start earning a salary and you start paying tax, you should have a financial planner. You should speak to someone. And no, Google is not the same as having a financial planner. It's not.
ChatGPT?
No, it's not. You know, thinking about doing something, researching about doing something and actually implementing it are two completely different things. And it's not the same. I always say that finances are matters of the heart because they really are. If I ask you, do you want 10,000 right now? What are you going to say? You're going to say yes.
Of course.
You're going to say yes. I made a joke where I sent people a proof of payments for April Fools, and people got so upset because money is a touchy subject.
It is a touch. It's emotional. You're right.
It's really emotional. So it's always good to have another person give you advice on your own finances.
And when you say it's emotional, it then bears quite a big impact in terms of relationships, because when those emotions are coming in, it's then the knock-on effect that you can see too. What did you say? Differences?
Irreconcilable
differences, because then it you're spending my money. We're not building anything, and
we're not creating wealth.
Then somebody's just squandering everything, and it's just irreconcilable differences. But I feel like how long after somebody says I do? So what's an annulment? How soon can you actually annul versus divorce? What's the difference?
Same thing. Annul, divorce is the same thing.
It's the same thing. Okay. There's no quicker. So if I get married today and I say I do, and then tomorrow I'm like, actually I don't. Right? Is it too late? Do I now need to go to high court, or not court, but do I now need to follow the proper?
Yes. The only way to end a marriage, regardless if it's customary, civil, is through divorce. So you have to go through the court. Up until the court gives you that decree of divorce, you are still married. Even if you lobola today and tomorrow he says, never mind, you're still married. Well, if you did all the processes.
Sure. You know, please forgive me and don't judge me for saying this.
Okay.
I watched that Ashton Kutcher Cameron Diaz movie and I thought it was 5 working days.
No.
You just
5 working days.
Right? No. So it's not 21 business days, nothing.
No, if you're married and your marriage has legal standing, the only way to end it is through divorce.
Guys, there's no CPA to marriage because they're like 7 days to decide that you
cooling
don't want
off
the
period.
product, 14-day return policy.
There's no cooling off period in marriage.
No, we need to push for a cooling off period for marriages is definitely necessary. So in regards to the traditional events directory, right? So both of your businesses are featured in the counseling section of the traditional events directory. And when you see, for example, a Lobola request coming through, right? You'll see that somebody writes, I want deco, I want. And nowhere there are they saying, I actually would like legal services or I would like a financial planner, right? Is that then not an opportunity for you guys to actually reach out and say, hey, by the way, have you actually thought of the following? Because that is the kind of services that we actually want to give to our brides, to say, you're thinking of the obvious, right? What about the not so obvious that you are thinking of? And I'm sure you've seen that even though you are in a particular category, you get to see everything from everybody that comes on, because our clients are not always thinking about 360.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where as professionals, we step in. And before we started the session, we were having quite an interesting conversation about you setting up your business. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So yes, we do come in before couples get married, specifically the different marital regimes and how they will affect them again during death or during divorce, and the different avenues that you can take, for example, in community of property, out of community of property, with accrual or without accrual, about wills, about estate planning. Yeah, we take them through all of that.
But in regards to your legal journey,
yes,
right? Because I was asking about the name of your business and so forth. So tell us a bit about when did you start? Well, when did you decide to go the direction that you went in regards to your business?
Okay, I decided just after getting admitted, just as we were speaking before the podcast, that actually it's so difficult to get a job after being an admitted attorney. So then we decided to start a practice so that we can actually provide legal services for people.
And what would you say are the main difficulties in getting a job within the legal space?
Experience. Because, for example, in any job, people are asking for 10 years experience. But where are you getting the 10 years of experience if you can't even get employed to begin with? So definitely the experience part of it, and so many other barriers within the legal space. They will ask you to speak English and Afrikaans, which means already they're excluding certain demographics. Ask you to have a car, which means they're excluding people from different backgrounds, because where are you getting a car when you just have been admitted as an attorney or you're a candidate attorney?
Okay. And how has your business journey been so far? How long have you been in it? And how's it going?
I've been in it, I think now it's almost 6 months. I mean, it's going. You will take it's going.
As long as it's going.
It's going. You're learning every day. I've never been here before. I've never owned a business. So I'm taking it each day, case by case as it comes, using the knowledge that I do have and the expertise that I do have.
And what are your most common cases that you get from your business?
Okay, because now customary marriages is a very hot trending topic since that big other case. So a lot of that, we're getting calls. Someone says, I got married customarily, but now I want to get married civilly. So what's that looking like? And then the civil marriage is now null and void because you never got divorced from your customary wife. So we're seeing a lot of those. Okay, I almost disclosed something, but yeah. I almost spoke about a case, but yeah.
We'll edit it
out. Yeah.
Okay. That's quite an interesting space to be in, though, especially when people are. And where do you normally market yourself mainly?
Yeah, social media marketing, because like we're speaking before we started, that a lot of the times people now, this is their search engine. People don't necessarily go to Google. They now go to TikTok and look for an expert that is speaking. And it's also important to know that TikTok advice is not legal advice. It's just legal education. So even if you're watching a TikTok video, actually do consult with a legal practitioner or a financial advisor.
Because your case actually on in the details might differ
They
on
might
merits
differ. Yes,
to
because
somebody else.
even with this big case that is now in the public domain, people read the judgment and then want to apply it to them. But it might be that your facts are not the same as those two specific people, so the outcome might be different. So consult so that you get advice tailored to your specific circumstances.
And where do you market yourself, my lovely lady?
I am on all social media platforms. Whether I'm very active is very questionable. But yes, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, I'm definitely there. And then can I please just add, right? People go on TikTok and they comment, they transfer money. You haven't even asked this person for a FIRE's introduction letter. You don't know whether they're accredited. You don't know their advisory code. But whoever on TikTok, I'm taking this advice. No, guys, you need to, I always say, financial planning and legal planning it's a relationship, right? You need to be able to open up to someone about your entire life the same way you'll be opening up about matters of finances.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm on all social media. Is this the part where I say my name? Sorry.
Of course.
Oh, yes. Rebecca Bosucha. If you search me on LinkedIn, if you search me on Facebook, same name. If you search me on Instagram, if you search me on, the handles are different, but Rebecca Bosucha. You'll find me.
You can find us at b.k.m.attorneys.i, and you can contact us on 067-629-6366.
And to close off, ladies, what is the one thing that you would like to leave couples with from a legal perspective and from a finance perspective? What's the one thing?
From a legal perspective, don't get carried away by the big day. There's still life outside of that. Consider the financial and legal implications of what you're actually doing.
From a financial perspective, I'd say the same thing. The wedding day is one day of a lifetime together of financial planning, spending money, planning for education. So budget for the big day, but don't let it be a reason why you start your marriage off with debt instead of, a honeymoon, happiness. Yes, we start marriages with debt, we start marriages with love and happiness, not debt.
Love that. So those are the two amazing legal and financial minds that we have on the traditional events directory. It is a no-brainer that is where all planning needs to start, because we have you 360. And from a business perspective, we have businesses like yours that we advertise there to a greater community, people that don't even know that you could actually tap into the eventing space and the event market. But here you are, putting yourselves out there within the eventing space, reaching out to customers and so forth, and in the endeavor to grow your businesses. So we encourage anybody who has a business within the eventing space to please join the Traditional Events Directory. It's a fabulous home filled with amazing professionals. And if you're planning an event, before you say I do, or before you have a baby, or at any point in time, I think the Traditional Events Directory is properly the place to be. And that's on www.tedbyher.com. Our home for all things traditional events. And this has been our first amazing episode of the Eventful podcast. Thank you very much, ladies, for blessing us on this public holiday with your presence.
Thank you for the invite.
Much. Thank you for
to
having
share
us.
your amazing journeys and to share your great insights. I do feel like a lot of people are actually going to get a lot of gems from this. And I really hope that, firstly, as we say, grow our businesses together. But secondly, we maintain that impact that's beyond ourselves and educate the people to get the things right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.